All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome into Best on the Board here at The Athletic, presented by BetMGM. Michael Beller, Casey Joyner going to take you through our Week 15 best bet. Week 15 already off to an interesting start, Casey. That game yesterday. I mean, if you were a total bettor in that game, whether you were on the over or the under, I mean, talk about a roller coaster with all the getting inside the 5-yard line and coming away with no points, and then the under looking totally safe, even though it shouldn't have been, and then the over cashing, and then this game going to, oh man, it was just crazy roller coaster ride for total bettors. And I mean, if you were a Chargers bettor, you were right all game until you weren't. And that team just no pursuit of Travis Kelce and 2 huge plays. Just a crazy game and a fun way to kick off Week 15.
Great way to kick off Week 15 and give the Chiefs a ton of credit and things. Fantasy managers are just as crazy about that game too. If you're a Michael Badgley owner, I think it is, or the Charger kicker,
Dustin Hopkins.
Dustin Hopkins. Yeah, Dustin Hopkins. Yep. If you're Dustin Hopkins owner, you're just dying because when you put him out there. I give the Chiefs massive credit though for being that. But if you were gambling and things, I'd pick the Chiefs to win and Chiefs to cover, and so I was pulling my hair out to the very end too. So and then I don't understand what's not like Kelce play, like try and tackle the guy at least. I know it's easy for me to say, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, it was like the 5 worst tackling angles anyone on the Chargers has taken all season, and they all happened on the exact same play, which basically locked up first place in the AFC West for the Chiefs. Not exactly the time that you want to have your worst tackling performance as a team of the season, but hey, that's how things go. I was on the opposite side. I was on both Chargers to cover and Chargers to win that game, so I was feeling really good about myself for like 57 minutes. And then it just all came crashing down there at the end. But hey, that's behind us. We're now looking in front of us to Week 15. Actually, let's take one quick second to look behind us because KC, round of applause, a 3-0 week for you last week. 3 big favorites. I was challenging you on, do you really want to go 3 touchdown plus favorites? And all 3 of them come through for you a week ago. And let's just go right back to the well, right? Because you're going 3 more touchdown plus favorites. The smallest team that you're going with this week is favored by 8.5 points. We will save that one for the end. We'll start right in the middle. You've got an 8.5 point favorite, a 9.5 point favorite, and a 10.5 point favorite. All these lines coming to us from BetMGM. Let's start right down the middle there. Your 9.5 point favorite is the Miami Dolphins against the New York Jets. Let's hear your case for the Dolphins laying at 9.5 here.
Yeah, it's a lot of points, but the reason I'm picking these big teams is because I'm really looking. I do some power rankings for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I'm really picking the teams that are the worst teams and saying, okay, who are they playing, and is it a play case to go against them? Jacksonville's the worst team in the league right now, but I'm not going to pick Houston against them. But we can talk about that in a minute. But right now, the Dolphins not only go among the worst teams in the league. They're not the worst now. Obviously, they run on 5 straight wins. Their defense has allowed an average of 11 points per game in that span. They've not allowed more than 17 points in a single game. In fact, you take the 17-point game out, they're down around 10 points per game. So their defense is playing fantastic. I got 11 takeaways in that span. And New York's going to get Michael Carter back, which is great. But they got Zach Wilson under center. They're playing terrible on offense. And if you look at their games, too, the Jets tend to lose games, what they've been losing of late. They tend to lose games by a double-digit point total. And Miami and their wins, other than I think it's 4 out of 5, they've won by at least 10 points. So, I mean, when they win games, they're winning games big, too. I was concerned about the Miami backfield with Gaskin being out. We're getting news this morning that Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed, 2 of the running backs, were activated off the reserve COVID list. So they're going to get their big play guy in the backfield back. I just keep looking at going, I know Michael Carter's going to help, but I think that Zach Wilson's going to put up at least a couple picks, and I think he's hamstringing their offense, and I think the Jets will be lucky to score 13 points, and if they do that, I could see the Dolphins scoring 23.
Too many points for me, KC. I'm not betting the Jets. I'm certainly not making that bet. I'm actually in a pool, a little too convoluted to explain here, but 32 people are in this pool. All 32 people get one NFL team, and you have to pick that team's game against the spread every single week. I have the Jets this year. It has not been fun, but I am taking the Jets in this spot. It just feels like too many points for a team like Miami, as impressive as they've been of late. To be laying, let's also, let's talk about this win streak for just a second.
Yeah.
Houston, Jets, Panthers, Giants. are 4 of the 5 teams. They did beat
Sure.
the Ravens. They deserve a ton of credit for that. That was a Thursday night game. It was at home. So they'd still, you can't take it away from them. They deserve credit for beating the Ravens. Houston, Jets, Panthers, and Giants. I'm just saying a lot of teams could be on this same 5-game winning streak that the Dolphins are on right now. One of those teams that they did not beat by double digits, KC, the New York Jets, a game that they only won by a touchdown. And you know what I really worry about with the Dolphins is it's great that they're getting Gaskin back. It's great that they'll probably have Savon Ahmed out there too. No Jalen Waddle is really, I think, going to be really going to hurt this team. Jalen Waddle has basically been acting as an extension of the run game for them with everything he does. Tua's racking up these huge accuracy numbers, these huge completion percentage numbers, not by bombing the ball down the field, Josh Allen style. He's dinking and dunking, and it's working for them. I mean, I say dink and dunk not as a pejorative, even though it's usually how it's used. It's working for them. It's working for their offense, and so that's totally fine. But you take Jalen Waddle out of that equation, which we have to this week, and I think things can really change for the offense. I am not arguing pro Jets. I am just saying too much of a number for me to want to get involved on this game.
Okay. I can see that the Jets defense, though, as bad as they are, I mean,
it's bad defense. You could worst defense in the NFL.
Easily. So, I mean, I hate losing Waddle. And again, we talked about this last week that you just don't know. We're doing things at Friday morning, and things can change, especially with COVID between now and Sunday. So, but I still think they'll be able to manufacture enough offense. I think it's a matter of I don't think the Jets can be held to single-digit points if they're held to that, or like I said, low teens. If they get to that point, now Miami only has to score 23. I could just see them getting that against the Jets defense. I don't see them getting 35, but I can see them getting 24-13.
All right, well, there's your first pick. My first pick is going to be on a very short dog at home. Steelers +1 against the Titans. I can't figure this out, KC. What has Tennessee done since losing Derrick Henry to be favored on the road against a competent team? I've been Mr. Fade the Steelers all season long. Go back to August. I bet the Steelers to finish in last place in the AFC North, and I still feel decent about that bet. But what have the Titans done since losing Derrick Henry to be favored against a team like this on the road? Their offense has been a mess since losing Derrick Henry, and that included the couple of games that they didn't have Henry, but still had A.J. Brown, which they do not have in this game. They can't do anything offensively, and just look back to last week. We're sort of giving them a pass because they won that game comfortably against the Jaguars 20-0. It was never really a game. Urban Meyer's a disgrace, blah, 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 all of that. And we're not paying attention to the fact that the Titans offense looked bad in that game.
Yes.
I mean, genuinely bad in that game, and they still haven't figured anything out offensively, and it's sort of fine for them. They're going to muddle their way through the end of the regular season. They're still a couple of games up on the Colts in the AFC South. They can still win that division, get Henry back, and feel totally fine for where they are in the playoffs. And so that's whatever, but that doesn't solve anything for them in this game against the Steelers, a team that, despite their ups and downs this year, when they've been fully healthy, which they are, they've played very good defense. They have had some big plays over these last couple of weeks too. Like Ben Roethlisberger obviously is not anywhere near what he used to be, but it seems like over this last month or so, for a quarter and a half, he still puts it together. He still looks something like the Ben of old. And that's going to be enough, I think, in this one. I like the Steelers to win this game outright. I mean, it's just a 1-point spread. So obviously, if I'm taking them with the 1 point, I think they're going to win. But I like the Steelers a lot in this spot. This just feels like a line that is way off and putting way too much of an emphasis on what the Steelers aren't rather than what the Titans are right now.
We're Steelers fans in this household. I'll have to caveat all this by saying that we're, my son is a big Steelers fan. Back in the day, Jack Lambert, Jack Hamley, he's not, he watches old Facenda films all the time. So I caveat it with that. But so we worry about the Steelers play. They usually play down to their competition level. If they play a bad team, they won't view the Titans as a bad team. So you don't have to worry about that. But you're mentioning a Titans. Look at some metrics here. The last 4 weeks, they're in the bottom quarter of the league in points per drive. And their special teams, by the way, they're in the bottom 10% of the league in special teams expected points added over the last 4 weeks. So the special teams are terrible. Their offense isn't very good. The Steelers, they can run the ball solidly. Najee Harris they've got an okay running game, not a great running game, but they can get it done if you give them that opportunity. And you're right, Ben does hit enough passes, and you've got look at the Titans offense and what do they have in the passing game? Okay, is Julio? I don't know about him, but you still have Claypool, you still have Washington make a big play, you still have Deontay Johnson. You've got enough playmakers there I would think the Steelers, if they play to their talent level, which they probably will, would probably win this game.
I mean, this it almost scares me. I feel like the Steelers should be -3.5 in this game. It's crazy to me, and so that almost scares me a little bit. But I can't go away from it. I think the Steelers. Yeah.
Sorry, it's that 9-4 record is what it is.
Yeah. As currently constructed, I don't see any argument for the Titans being the better team.
No.
When the Titans are at full strength, I think they're definitely the better team. But as they are right now going into this game this week, I think Pittsburgh is comfortably the better team. I love this bet. It's my favorite play of the week, Steelers +1. Let's get on to your next play. It is the Cowboys laying 10.5 on the road against the Giants, a team that probably can't wait for this season to end. I'm with you on this one. Again, it's not a bet I'm making myself, but if I were forced to make a pick, the Cowboys would be the play. Let's hear why it is one of your three favorite.
Yeah, it's again. This is a matter of the Giants being that bad as much as it is the Cowboys being that good. Cowboys, they've got several injuries on offense, but their defense, they've been more reliant on than usual on defense. But they've got Parsons, they've got Diggs. I mean, they're making interceptions. Now, mind you, Dallas, when they're relying on the defense, when they can't generate takeaways, they're 1-2 in games where they have failed to generate a takeaway this year. But when they get 2 or more takeaways, they're 7-2. So, I mean, they're really good at that. And I'm looking at going, okay, the Giants, all right, could be Glennon, could be Jake from State Farm. It could be, it could be any of the, and their only losses, by the way, those 2 losses when they're 7-2 and they get 2 takeaways, the only losses they had were at Tampa and at Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're talking, okay, those are really good teams. Yeah, it could be Super Bowl. So if they're at the Giants, different story. I just look at that and say the Giants are probably going to give them a couple takeaways. The Giants are a banged up team, and Dallas has more than enough firepower in their offense. I just look at this and go, look. I mean, if you're going to bench Mike Glennon because you think he's bad, and Jake Fromm you think is the better option, and you're going against Dallas and their offense and the way their defense is playing right now, I see Dallas win this game probably by a couple of touchdowns.
I think it's really hard to find a way to get the Giants to like 13 points in this game. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, probably no Kadarius Toney again for the Giants. That passing game just has really no juice in it. Like they are, regardless of who the quarterback is, it's a bad match for Kenny Golladay. Because Kenny Galladay's not a big separator. He's a playmaker. He's a dude who is a physical receiver, can make big plays, but you need a quarterback like Matthew Stafford who is willing to make those tough throws and is capable of making those tough throws. And the Giants just don't have that, even if it is Daniel Jones. And so that really doesn't zero out what Golladay is, because he's still a threat and he's still a very talented receiver, but he is the same player, but the personnel makes him a lesser receiver with the Giants than he was with the Lions. It's a mess. That offense is a mess. And the Cowboys, this is Dak Prescott, we haven't talked about it a ton on this show. We have talked about it a bit on our fantasy show, and I'm sure About Them Cowboys has talked about it quite a bit. Our Cowboys podcast on The Athletic. Dak Prescott hasn't looked right over the last couple of weeks. I thought that Denver game was an anomaly coming back from his injury, and then he had a good game immediately after that. But since then, he really has not looked right. This is a get-right spot. In advance of the playoffs, lock up the division, get this win. This is absolutely a get-right spot for Dak Prescott and this Dallas passing game. I think we see that come to fruition for them in New York this weekend. I'm going to go back to the AFC North for my second pick, KC, back to another underdog, in the AFC North, and it is the Cincinnati Bengals going to Denver, taking on the Broncos, 2.5-point dogs, and I like the Bengals in this spot as well. I think the Bengals deserve a ton of credit for the way they battled back against the 49ers and forced overtime last week. And I want to take you down a quick trip to how that game got to that point in the first place. 10-6, late second quarter. 49ers are punting the ball away. Right, 10-6? Yeah, 10-6, late second quarter. 49ers punting the ball away, about a minute and a half left in that game. Bengals are looking at taking over right around their 40, 45-yard line. Yeah. Maybe going in, taking the lead, getting a field goal, whatever. Muffed punt. 49ers recover. Mm-hmm. That sucks, but whatever. Let's just stop them, limit the damage here, and they do that. Then Von Bell gets a stupid taunting penalty after the 49ers after the Bengals are about to force a long field goal. First down, George Kittle touchdown, and now it's 17-6 going into the locker rooms at halftime, and they still come back, outscore the 49ers 14-3 in the second half, and force overtime in that game. If either of those things go differently, I think we're looking at a much different game between the 49ers and the Bengals. And I think that this line is influenced heavily by the fact that the Bengals have come up short in some of their big high-profile games so far this season. Most recently, that game against the 49ers. Broncos have been running the hell out of the ball. They see a much different defensive front this week in Cincinnati than what they saw last week in Detroit, and that's no knock on Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and that offensive line. They can still get the job done against good defenses, but it's going to be a much different look for them this week than it was last week, and that passing game for Denver really is an issue. I mean, they have not been able to generate any consistent offense all season long. through the air. I think that's going to be a problem for them going up against Cincinnati, a defense that you do not want to get into too many one-dimensional games with. So I like the Bengals in this spot. Frankly, I just think they're the better team and that shows up this weekend.
They're 2-4 in their last 6, but they're not playing like that. If you look at the metrics and you look at how they perform and to say where are their metrics and things, they're top 10 team in the league, and you could make an argument they're top 8, top 7 probably. They're playing that well. You're right. It's just some situational things. And the Broncos, by the way, their metrics, if you look at them, they're also a top 10 caliber team, but they're more limited. I can't agree with you more on that passing in Cortland Sutton. Many fantasy managers dying with him. Yeah. Judy, though, has not been doing that well.
Yeah.
Fant's not doing that well. I mean, they're not getting production out of really anybody. And it's great to get the ground game production that they're getting, but I think that you're going to get Joe Mixon. He missed all his practices last week because of a non-COVID illness. So he should be back this week, back to his regular form after this 2-game slump. And if he's there, he can match their ground prowess. And you still have Jamar Chase showing up finally last week after a couple of weeks where he was, after like a month where he was okay, but he wasn't what he was earlier in the year. Now he's looking like that rookie of the year candidate again. You've got Higgins doing well, even Boyd's doing okay, and CJ Uzoma is an underrated tight end too. So I like their firepower. So yeah, I'm probably with you on this one. That I would think the Bengals are playing a lot better than people are giving them credit for, and I think the Broncos are the more limited team.
Yeah, it should be a pretty fun game, I think, between these two teams. And again, like almost every meeting between two AFC cross-conference, cross-division teams, a huge game for that AFC wildcard race. But give me the Bengals plus 2.5. We got one more pick apiece here. But first, let's hear it from BetMGM, our sponsors of this show, the presenting sponsor of Best on the Board. Right now, you can bet 10, win 200 over at BetMGM, plus get a free year-long subscription to The Athletic. Just go to betmgm.com/TABest to take advantage of this offer from the king of sportsbooks. Again, it's bet 10 to win 200, and that's any bet. Casey and I are talking about bets that are paying out minus 110. If you bet 10 on that, you win $9.09. But you can take one of these, bet 10, and win $200 on it, plus get that free year-long subscription to The Athletic. Go to betmgm.com/TABest to take advantage of this offer. It's a new customer offer. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Casey, one more pick apiece here, and you are going to that team that took down the Bengals last week, the San Francisco 49ers, returning home to take on the Atlanta Falcons, 8.5-point favorites here. 49ers looking like a little bit of a sleeper in the NFC, Casey.
I think they are. They're playing really well. They're also a team they've shown when they've got to win the turnover battle to win. They're 5-0 on the right side of that ledger. They're 1-2 when they tie, and they're 1-4 when they lose the turnover battle. So, but that bodes well against Atlanta because Atlanta's only won the turnover battle 3 times this year. That's all. They've only won it 3 times. And the thing is, San Francisco, even if they don't gain victory via that method, can also go the high score route because they scored 26 or more points in 5 of their past 6. Atlanta's only posted 20 more than one of their last 5. They were talking right now, the Cordero Patterson. Last week, it looked like a platoon between him and Mike Davis. And thinking, okay, well, maybe Mike Davis is playing better. He played kind of mediocre this year. He's playing better. But now it turns out that they're managing Patterson's snaps. So it's like, okay, well, they've wore him down. Davis is not a good game breaker. I don't like where they're on their passing game. I think San Francisco can move the ball through the air. And I do think that they're going to be able to win that turnover battle. And yeah, I like those elements for that. And I think Atlanta is just not a team that's going to handle. Some teams play well later in the season. If you're a power team, you do tend to do well later in the year. I just don't think Atlanta is a power team, and I don't think you're going to handle a power team very well. So I add those elements together, and I just think San Francisco is going to get a pretty dominant win.
Yeah, this is a game that they absolutely need. If we're right about them being a sleeper, and I think that they've put themselves on an island in the NFC, not quite with the top 5 teams that have been the top 5 teams all season, but clearly ahead of the Minnesotas of the world. And I mean, hey, Atlanta 6-7, like they're in the hunt here too. It's ridiculous that one of these Atlanta or New Orleans or Minnesotas is going to get into the playoffs. Thanks for the 17 playoff. I really need that. But I like this one also. And again, not a play I'm going to make this weekend, but if forced to make the pick, I see KC down there. San Francisco would be my selection here. I'm going to wrap things up with a pick that I feel like I'm tempting fate with, KC. Saturday night, Colts and Patriots. This is going to be an awesome game. I really think this is going to be a fun game. Colts are 2.5-point favorites. I think they win this one, KC, by more than a field goal. I think that they can do what the Patriots do better than the Patriots do it. I think that they can make the Patriots uncomfortable in this game because of Jonathan Taylor, because of the front that Indy possesses. I think they can control the game. I think Indy's offense can control the game. And New England has, they've crushed some bad teams on this very impressive win streak that they've put together. They've beaten some good teams, but they haven't seen a team that's quite a mirror image to them like Indy. They are looking at a team that can beat them at their own game. And I think that the game they had a couple of weeks ago against Buffalo is instructive. Obviously, weather was a huge, huge factor in that game. And Buffalo, as good as they are, just not built to play that style of game. And so they were able to overwhelm Buffalo in a way that Buffalo just isn't able to measure up. The Colts are very comfortable playing that style of football. And the Colts are the first team that puts together being a good team and being comfortable playing the way New England wants to play for any team that the Patriots have seen in this entire streak. So I don't think this is a game that the Colts run away with. I don't think this is a -2.5 game where I'm kicking my feet up at halftime and already planning on how I'm spending when I'm winning on it. I think this is going to be one that comes down to the wire, but I think you put together Jonathan Taylor, you put together the Colts offensive line, you put together Carson Wentz being able to make enough plays, and the Colts defense being able to do enough also. And I just think that this is a game that the Colts are very comfortable playing the way the Patriots want to play, and that's the first team in this entire last 2 months of football the Patriots have played that we can say that about. Jonathan Taylor makes the difference. Ignore this Wisconsin sweatshirt. It's got nothing to do with it. Just pretend I'm not even wearing it. But I do think that he is the big difference maker. He and that offensive line for the Colts are the difference maker and what puts them over the top in this one.
Yeah. You don't need to be a Bucky fan to be a Jonathan Taylor fan. The thing that troubles me about the game, I'm with you because the Colts are third in my power rankings this week and the Patriots are first. So, they can go toe-to-toe, and I love the power running game, and they've got an opportunistic defense, and they don't have any problem going smash mouth. If New England wants to play smash mouth, fine. Colts will do it. My concern, and this is, I think, where it's going to come down to, is I see Belichick versus Wentz, and I go, I don't. Wentz has done such a good job.
Can we trade Nick Foles to Indy really quick?
Yeah, exactly. Can we do something there?
Nick Foles and Frank Reich back, the magical duo against Bill Belichick.
For one game would be nice, because I just worry about that. Wentz has done a great job of protecting the ball this year as compared to past years. Mm-hmm. But he's still Carson Wentz. Having said that, it's Mac Jones, and it's okay. This is the big, you played Buffalo, but they had to throw the ball 3 times. You weren't asked to do much in that game, so you can be asked to do a whole lot more against a pretty good defense. So whoever makes more mistakes there, I think, is going to be the key. I could see Carson making more mistakes in some games, but I could probably see the Colts. I could see him making fewer mistakes more times than not, because again, you're talking a rookie, and there's certain things that Jones just had. Like I said, there's certain pressures he hasn't been asked to do at the professional level that I think it could be a problem for him. So not a bet I'd make, but I can see why the Colts would be. I could definitely see them taking this one by at least 3.
Yeah, this is both teams coming off a bye this week, and that's what gives me the tiniest bit, not the tiniest bit. That's what gives me pause in this one, is just Bill Belichick off a bye, 2 weeks to prepare for this, 2 weeks to study what the Colts have been doing. That's certainly something to be thinking about. But Frank Reich, in his own right, you give him 2 weeks he's not an idiot. You give Frank Reich 2 weeks to go back into the lab and know that I've got to come out with a wrinkle that Bill hasn't seen on tape yet. I think he can do that too. So this is going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a really fun game. A Saturday night, a great way to right in the middle of your weekend after whatever you get into tonight, just throw this one in there. It's going to be a very fun game. Maybe the game of the week with the Colts and Patriots getting together. And we've been saying that for a long time. Colts and Patriots get together, but this is not Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, Colts and Patriots. It's a different look, but still should be a very fun game on Saturday night. That's going to do it for us here on this episode of Best on the Board. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's just with your ears or here with your eyeballs on YouTube as well. We greatly appreciate it. For KC, I am Michael Beller. Good luck this weekend. As always, happy betting. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.